Three, two, one. Okay, good. So can you make that point again? Because I think that's a really good point that Homer is like the Bible.
Yeah, sure. So in this dialogue, it seems to me that Ion was becoming overconfident in his knowledge of worldly affairs, from chariot racing, navigation, generalship, etc., because of how vast and how well reputed Homer was for the Greeks of that time, pretty much like the Bible is today and nowadays, and during the past couple of millennia. Some people have tried to use and used the Bible to try to explain pretty much anything happening in the world, with sometimes overconfidence.
Yeah. Okay. So what you could say is this: what if you have an Aquinas level theologian who can really parse out the differences and the distinctions of the attributes of the divinity philosophically and all that stuff? That's probably really impressive. And maybe what you'd have is also a really good preacher. But what if you just had a really good preacher? What if you just had a really inspirational preacher and people show up at church and they tremble at the thought of their sins in hell and they're jumping up and down singing hallelujah and they're just super inspired by it. It's Ion is like Mick Jagger. Ion, like, okay, maybe Mick Jagger can give doctoral lectures on music and how it works. I have no idea. But what if he couldn't? Hey, what if he couldn't say anything about what it means to put on a good performance, or like he can say some stuff maybe, but what if he's not really an expert in musical theory? He's still clearly the rock god. He's still clearly the guy who everybody agrees knows something or has some sort of privileged position. Like everybody's agreeing, Ion is the man. He's the Mick Jagger of the day. He's the guy that can put on one heck of a concert and everybody knows it and he wins the prize and he sells out the tickets and all that stuff. Elena, I'm having trouble adding you here from a mic or cam issue. You might need to make sure you leave the previous link so that this one will work for you. In any case, um, Socrates is saying, first of all, the knowledge you have is not the type of knowledge you think you have. You don't have any of that type of knowledge. You have something very different going on, and it's not really knowledge at all. Your brain is being taken out of your head, and the gods are working you like a puppet because that's how they speak to us through a chain of inspiration. First the muse, then the poet, then the rhapsode, and maybe the choir, and all of this stuff, and it brings the message of the gods to us. But secondly, you're highly praised. You're a rock star. You love your fame. You're signing autographs and tits and everything else, and you're super happy about that. And you should be. That's great. You deserve praise, and what you're bringing is divine and awesome, and we love you for it. But you shouldn't be ambitious for the type of praise that a general would get, that somebody with political success. That's lesser than what you're doing. And maybe you don't know that, but I'm trying to let you know that if it's possible for you to be a chameleon and change your role and be good at politics and other things, then you must be a deceiver. You must be something with a lot of creative art that allows you to do many different things. I think rather you should accept the fact that the humbleness of the calling of being a vessel for the gods is pretty damn cool already. Maybe recognize it doesn't come from you. Maybe have some humility in that sense, and you won't have hubris and you won't be too prideful. But you can also really love your calling and love your fate and amor fati this and really be thrilled to death with what it is that you get to be a part of the link of chains that are bringing magnetic power and resonating with people what the gods want to say. Um,
But it's strange because, for one, it's not his merit. It's supposedly it's divine inspiration. He's just configured in a way that he acts like a conduit for the gods through the
right.
muses. Gods, muses, Homer, this guy.
Yeah.
And, and and for the other, it's not necessarily a bad thing compared to someone who really knows their trade, their job. right?
Right. There are people who can speak expertly about Homer. Maybe the philosophers can, and maybe the theologians, and maybe the charioteers can take a few lines and say, hey, wow, this is really well written, and here's why, right? There are other people who can talk about the content, but those people, in the beginning of the essay, Socrates says, maybe I'm good at talking about things and thinking about things, but I just keep finding myself envying people like you. You're kind of closer to that place that I want to be after I die, where I'm reunited with the divine. There's more of an intimacy between you and divine speaking, but you got to realize that you're just a dumb vessel for that. Now, that's not an insult. It's it, don't get so hyped up. It reminds me of the Jungian idea of don't confuse yourself with the archetype. It's
So, from a author's perspective, that's not an insult, it's actually a compliment.
rightly understood, it would be. And Socrates is trying to help Ion see that. Keep going. But yeah, that's exactly what Socrates is trying to
Okay.
say to Ion, is that this is way better. This is pretty freaking cool, isn't it?
Yeah, so writers like music, art, poetry, other writing, mythology, fairy tales, fiction novels evoke raw emotion, observation, and meaning to the human condition. That's what gives us meaning. Without it, the world would be gray, black, we'd all be miserable. We wouldn't want to be here,
True,
right?
true,
So
true.
writers act as interpreters of the soul. They channel the intangible into words that resonate across time and evoke emotions. Authors have a saying, if when writing your story you aren't crying, neither will the reader. Um,
Awesome.
so, the
Awesome.
good
Stick on
read,
that. Yeah.
good good writers bleed their soul onto the page, whether it's a whisper of a muse, a divine spark, the soul's silent secret ache demanding to be heard. The purpose of art and song and poetry is to distill the chaos of life into something that gives us meaning and truth. It gives us um, a reason to exist on a level that nothing else in life gives us. It's why our brains are hardwired for story and music so that we can better understand ourselves and each other. We crave story on an instinctual and evolutionary level. And songs are like poetry's sonic kin. It's the vibrations that hit the mind, the will, the emotions directly. When words fail,
Absolutely.
music speaks. So everything with atomic structure, and they've been able to prove this scientifically, um, atoms respond to light and sound, and that's why music feels like it hits your body and makes you tremble or shake or cry. It hits you on a soul level, but it also affects your cells on a physical level, like Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah or Bob Dylan's Blowing in the Wind. They don't just speak, they haunt us. They shift how we see the world and feel the world around us. Uh,
Okay. That's so many good points all at once. Let's jump
sorry,
in here.
I've
No,
kind
that's
of
really good.
started
No, don't
babbling.
apologize. Don't apologize. That's really good. Okay. First, I want to stick with the embodied principle that you talked about, because we're going to be philosophers, so we're going to talk about things. It's like dissecting a frog, right? We're going to kill the frog and it's going to be gross. But we're going to talk about it, which is not the same as being the artist. This is why Socrates says, I kind of envy you people, because if I was just doing poetry, if I was just writing a song, if I was sculpting, that'd be kind of cool. But that's not what we do. What we do here is we philosophize. So I want to talk about it. This embodied principle is really important. It's the reason why large language models are not going to produce art that anyone cares about. That doesn't mean that there isn't a type of AI that won't be able to do that one day, by the way, but I don't want to talk more about it. But large language models aren't, because well, okay, let's not talk more about it. Here's the thing. The When Scott Adams, who wrote that prophetic philosophical text that we read as the sixth consummate thinker in our backbone course of year 2, which we'll get to again at some point, he talks about writing cartoons as art and writing things that make you laugh. And he says, what's really happening here is I'm listening to my body and I'm seeing if I react, not just if I laugh, but if it sort of makes me move a little bit, if it makes me upset, if it makes me burp, if it makes me what I mean, I didn't say burp, but if it gives me indigestion, or it makes me laugh, or it makes me want I'm listening to my body as the tuning fork to resonate with whether or not I'm saying something that's going to motivate other people to clip it out and actually put it up on a wall. He's talking explicitly about the fact that it's kind of cool because he's a philosopher, but he's also an artist, so he can sort of do a little bit of that stuff that Ion wasn't able to do, and that Socrates had to mirror for him and say, you're kind of doing something like this. And he says, there's this embodied part of all of this that really matters. And when you started talking about the different types of art, the sculptors do the same thing, and the architects do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
They're creating an environment, the architect, that says this is who you are in relationship to the cosmos, if it's a cathedral, or this is who you are in relationship with the divine, or this is who you are in relationship to the body politic, if you imagine a castle or something like that. The very walls themselves are shouting at you something that your body resonates with, right? You walk into a concert hall and you kind of just freeze, and maybe your jaw opens. That's even before the music starts, architecturally. Or if the music is playing, you really freeze and you forget to breathe, and it's like something's gripping you, something's like attacking your body and changing it, and like, be like this. It's orienting you in the world properly and changing your orientation. And Socrates is saying, well, the gods and the muses, and then the poet who writes it, and the composer, and then the performer, and then here you are. And it's sort of, you're feeling the magnetism straight through it, but it's an embodied physical thing that's happening, and it's speaking to you on that really deep level. So all of that's really fantastic. Grace. So here's what I want to do. I want to continue talking about art. I'm going to kill the YouTube stream, and then that way we won't get a content strike for looking at art.